Hi, Dana. I'm very excited that we are together. These are tough times, but they bring opportunities for people to connect via technology. You are in Oxford, and Lee and myself are in Tel Aviv. And we would like to talk to you about your personal, intellectual story, all the way from quantum physics to quantum leadership, which is your very inspiring recent book, and especially quantum leadership in China. Lee and myself are very lucky, I guess like you, to be working in China and to collaborate with Chinese people. And this dialogue that we are going to do together, we are going to share with our Chinese and European partners. So thank you very much from all of us. And let's start. Why did you fall in love with quantum physics?
Well, let me tell you, just to correct what you said, the name of my book is The Quantum Leader, not Quantum Leadership, The Quantum Leader. There is another book that is not so good called Quantum Leadership by somebody else. All right, well,
Okay,
when I was 13 years old, I found a book called All About the Atom. It was at a very low point in my life because I had lost my religion and I felt very lost. And I was looking for something new and exciting in life. And this book introduced me to the magical and mysterious world inside the atom. And I discovered there was a whole universe of smaller particles inside the atom. And then when I was 15, I read David Bohm's textbook on quantum theory and discovered quantum physics. And this came at just the right time in my life because, like all teenagers, I was asking big questions about life and the meaning of my own life and human life in general, and trying to find a framework that would replace religion for me and answer such questions. And I found this in quantum physics. So I went to MIT on a physics scholarship to study quantum physics. But once I was there, I realized I was more interested in the philosophy and the wider implications of the paradigm defined by quantum physics than by wanting to be a physicist. So I then got my degree in physics and philosophy and went on to Harvard and learned about psychology and religion and more philosophy, and applied the quantum ideas to thinking in these fields. And that's what led to the writing of my first book, The Quantum Self, back in 1990. And since then, I have been writing books applying quantum ideas and the quantum way of thinking to our thoughts about society and spirituality, and particularly recently to management and how management could change quite radically its approach to running companies or governments if it followed the quantum paradigm instead of the older management paradigm, which was derived from Newtonian physics. The Newtonian way of thinking is very Western. It's a takeoff from the way the Greeks thought in ancient times. And the quantum way of thinking is very, very different and is more like people China have always thought. Quantum physics is very like Taoist philosophy in China. Indeed, sometimes I say that quantum physics is Taoism, but with experiments and equations to verify it. So I was introduced to China in 2014 and began making countrywide speaking tours there. Also, the CEO of the big Chinese company Haier invited me to come to Qingdao and meet him because he told me he had implemented my quantum management theory in his company transformation process. He calls it the Rendan Hoyi management model. And so I met Zhang Rumin, the CEO of Haier, and then I slowly met other leaders in China and professors at the business schools. And in 2016, the Quantum Leader was a bestseller in China. And suddenly everybody in China wanted to know about quantum management. So now I virtually live and work in China most of the time. I am stuck here in Oxford at the moment because of this COVID crisis, but I will return to China as soon as it is possible.
Wow. There is kind of an ambivalent feeling now in the West regarding China. On the one hand, there is anger because it started in Wuhan. And on the other hand, it seems that the Chinese managed the crisis very well. So everybody wants to learn how they did it and replicate it in other countries. What is your feeling about it, Danah?
Well, in general, there is antagonism to China in the West because China wants to share the playground and America in particular wants the playground all to itself. The China that I know and experience when I'm there is nothing like the China that I hear about in Western propaganda. About the COVID crisis, I think we don't understand the problem China was dealing with. Yes, the local party officials in Wuhan behaved very badly, and they have all been punished and removed from their posts because they were frightened for their bosses to know there might be a problem, and they, as you know, silenced the doctor who tried to warn them. Once the party in Beijing knew that there was some mystery illness threatening health, the Chinese did not have the advantage that we in the West had a month later. They didn't know what they were dealing with. They didn't have a genome. They didn't know what this illness was. So it took them 2 weeks, a whole 2 weeks, to figure this out and then respond quickly. So I personally feel these criticisms of the way China handled the virus in the beginning are quite unfair. And that Donald Trump in particular wants to use it as another way to beat China over the head. I think instead we should learn from how effectively the Chinese dealt with the crisis once they knew what they were dealing with, how they have shared everything they learned with the West every day on their cable news program. I hear Chinese doctors talking to doctors in America, Europe, Brazil about things they are still learning about the disease and how best to treat it and handle it. And on the whole, I feel this criticism of China is politically motivated rather than to do with anything China is doing wrong.
Um, uh, could we take it a little in the other direction, in the sense of, as somebody who was born in the United States and then lived in the UK for many, many years, and now spending time in China, what can the Chinese learn from the West? It's very interesting because we are in a project together where we do knowledge sharing between Chinese and Europeans. So what is your feeling about the other way around? What can the Chinese learn from the West? Danah? I think that we have a problem in the communication.
Oh, you are back. We got interrupted.
Yes, I said that since we are in a project in which we have Chinese partners and European partners, and because you have this unique perspective, because you come from the West and you are now in the East, in China, we spoke about what we could learn from the Chinese. And first of all, would you like to elaborate a little about it? What can we learn from the Chinese in addition to how to handle this crisis?
Oh, I think that is the pity of this antagonism to China, because the Chinese have so many very advanced projects, so much advanced technology. Their social and economic system is producing miracles in eradicating poverty. And because the West, particularly America, it is America leading this, finds the Chinese to be competitors, they are shutting down all the valuable knowledge we could be getting from China. Because the Chinese have always thought quantum, they are making better use of all the quantum technology that defines the 21st century than the West is doing. They think naturally in this quantum way, and so they are rushing ahead of us. It is difficult for Western people to understand the quantum paradigm. It was even difficult for the scientists who discovered quantum physics to understand what they had discovered because they were Western scientists. Einstein said it is Alice in Wonderland physics, and it is mysticism and gobbledygook, and spent all of his later life wasting his time trying to prove it was wrong. The Chinese have no such problems, and they are racing ahead with projects and technology that is really developing all the promise of quantum physics. And every day I am learning in China of exciting new projects in solar power, wind energy, space travel, quantum compute. Are you there? I think you've frozen again.
Yes, I'm here. Danah, I'm here.
You there?
Danah. Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
Every day I'm learning about these exciting new projects, and the West is not learning from them. And the whole quantum paradigm is that we must give up this notion of global competition and global disagreement and cooperate. Because the global problems that face us today can only be solved through global cooperation. And I think the West must accept that China has joined the table. I sincerely don't think the Chinese want to control the table, but they do want to share it. And the West should be more open to creative partnerships with at least Chinese companies, if not the Chinese government. The new book I am writing envisages a new quantum global order where there will be zero distance between Western countries and the countries of Asia, particularly China. And we will cooperate, as Xi Jinping says, as a community of shared destinies, or a community with a shared future. I see nothing in anything that I observe or hear in China to indicate the Chinese wish to replace the West or squash the West or make everybody in the West become a socialist or a communist. They simply want to have their system and practice it as they think best for their country and share the problems of the world in a co-creative way and look for solutions. And that is my impression and my opinion.
I would love to get your feeling about something more specific that I know that you did. You told me that you went to many cities in China and you had conversations with them, sharing with them your ideas. And since our project is focused on cities, I would love to get your impression of the Chinese cities in comparison to European cities or American cities.
Well, I haven't yet looked into the city development projects in China in detail. I know that Xi Jinping is at the moment building an entirely new experimental city close to Beijing that will have all the smart city technology and all their ideas about what city life should be in the near future. What I have noticed in the Chinese cities I have visited is that they make life very beautiful and very green for the citizens. Because of the high population density in China, people must live in high-rise apartment buildings. Even wealthy people live in such places. But unlike here in England, where these high-rise apartment buildings are only for the poor, and they are completely neglected, barren spaces that breed crime, in China, the high-rise apartment housing projects are all surrounded by trees. There are parks nearby where families can go and have picnics and get out into nature. The streets of the Chinese cities are lined with trees. There is beauty everywhere you look. Flowers and beautiful carvings, even on the paving stones. One thing that has struck me as amazing is that in every Chinese city, the pavements have braille carved into the paving stones so that a blind person can navigate the pavement safely with his feet. He doesn't need a guide dog or a companion because the pavement guides him. And this is such a simple, thoughtful thing to bring to cities, and yet the West doesn't know about it, and I have never seen it in any Western city. I know that the Chinese are doing a great deal of work on smart cities now, and it is not just about the technology that will connect devices and instruments in cities. It is also about using material science to build buildings that will renew themselves, buildings that will behave like biological organisms and literally grow. They are building new ways for communities to live together so that the alienation of inside the larger metropolis. everything in China is about how to build relationships. This is the prime Chinese philosophy for thousands of years. Build a relationship. Are trying to increase the relationships, not just between people and their smart devices, but between people and people. Um, so this is what I have noticed about the city so far in China.
Um, I know that you are teaching in Tsinghua, which is considered the best university in China. And we are very lucky because they are one of our partners in our project. And I think that they would love to hear what is your impression from teaching Chinese students in Tsinghua University in Beijing.
Teaching the students at Tsinghua, I mostly work with PhD students and EMBA students, but it is a total delight. And again, such a refreshing contrast. Are you there?
Yes, yes, I'm very much here.
It is such a refreshing contrast to working with students in the West, because I find the Chinese students eager to learn everything. They're filled with curiosity, filled with questions, filled with the passion to learn. And Tsinghua has been designated as China's Leadership Academy. So it is not just young people who will go into political leadership who are educated at Tsinghua, but the young people who will lead in industry, finance, architecture, the arts, etc. Tsinghua chooses the very brightest minds in China. And these young people are just amazing to work with. I love them. And I learn from them every day.
Wow, this is amazing.
And unlike at our universities here in England and America, at least, going to university in China is not a social occasion. The students don't spend a lot of time going to parties and clubs. They study very hard, they work very hard, and they take their learning very seriously. And they think they will have the fun after they graduate.
I can't resist asking you the very last personal question of mine. I know that you know Israel a little, and people tell us that there is something that we have in common with the Chinese, and actually we find that the friendship that we have developed with the Chinese is very strong. Uh, could you say something about the Chinese and the Jewish people?
Yes, I lived in Jerusalem for 4 years, and I think I know the Israeli personality quite well. And I think the Israeli personality is very like the Chinese personality. The Chinese are a very emotional people who express their emotions very strongly. They're very excitable. So there is a lot of excited conversation about everything. And they love to discuss intellectual things like the Jewish people do. Also, the Chinese people, once they have an idea, they like to get it done. They don't want to spend years thinking about it and planning about it. They have the idea, now let's do it. And that is very like the Israeli people. No patience. And I think this makes the Israelis and the Chinese very compatible. Both peoples are expressive, emotional, they say what they think, and they like to get things done. And of course, I happen to think they are both highly intelligent peoples. who take learning very seriously, like to read books, like to learn new things. And again, I think this would make for a very exciting relationship.
Wow.
Both the Israelis and the Chinese are always experimenting, always wanting to do something new, always wanting to make something better. They never rest. And this restlessness is very obvious in both China and in Israel. And in both countries, there's a lot of energy. You feel the energy when you arrive. You feel the people are excited. And both peoples believe in their countries and love their countries. There's a lot of griping against the government in Israel because every Jew thinks he should be prime minister. So what does the prime minister know? But on the whole, Israelis love their country and their government, even though they think they should be running it. The Chinese love their country and are proud of it and proud of its achievements. So I think there's a great deal of synergy. I can't talk about it today, but there is also a lot of overlap between the ideas in Chinese traditional philosophy and the ideas in Jewish mysticism that you find from the Book of Zohar, Kabbalistic philosophy. So even at that deeper philosophical level, there is a synergy between these two peoples that I think will lead to brilliant partnership.
Wow. Danah, this has been quite an inspiring conversation with you. You know that I have been following you for many, many years. It is really beyond all of my expectations. And since I don't know if it's luck, serendipity, whatever, got us together into China, I look forward to exploring China together with you, to co-creating projects with our Chinese friends and your Chinese friends, and really looking to a very great collaboration in the future. On behalf of all of our friends in this project, which is called the Trans-Urban EU-China Project, I would like to thank you very, very much. And we will be in touch very soon to take it forward and to share more ideas. You have been my inspiration since I ever heard about you for the first time, which is more than 20 years ago. So we'll stay in touch. Thank you.
And I would just like to say hello to all my old friends in Israel and to all my new friends in China. I value you both very highly.
Thank you. A big hug. Take care of yourself and see you soon. Thank you very much.